right now, and I'll get it back, Erin, probably about 2 hours after the end of the meeting is how it kind of works.
Perfect.
Okay. And then I'll forward it on to you and Rachel. Okay.
Okay. Sounds great. Hi, everybody.
Good morning, Erin.
Hi.
Good morning. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. It looks like we're going to have 15 or so people jumping in, which is great. And I am trying to see everybody. So let's see. Stacy is grabbing her tea. She will be back. All right, you guys. So thanks so much for taking the time to come online this morning. What we're trying to do is get community businesses or people who have a lot of the same issues together so we can talk through reopening and have both the chamber and Vashon be prepared, come up with things that we can use collectively so we're not all reinventing the wheel trying to design our own things, and have a really good common message amongst businesses on the island for both locals, islanders, as well as people coming onto the island who may not know what we're trying to accomplish. So that's part of the goal. And what I thought we could do is just kind of run around the room, around the screen. Everybody introduce ourselves. And sorry for the really short notice, but I sent some of you just a list of questions that we wanted to try to go over today. And as we introduce ourselves, if you can just, give a little bit about when you think you're going to be opening, if you're phase 1, phase 2, and what concerns you may have or what's keeping you up at night regarding customer interactions and people coming back in. So thought we could start with that. Eric, since you're looking front and center on my screen, why don't you go first?
Oh, likewise, Erin, but you always are front and center on my screen. I'm Eric Wyatt. I'm the Recreation Manager for Vashon Park District. In addition to running rec, part of that encompasses the lodgings for the Park District, which we have 2 rentals at Point Robinson, and also the Bell Baldwin at Point Cove. We have not stopped renting at Fern Cove or at any of the houses, although we've had a lot of cancellations. We certainly haven't been broadcasting out to the general public that we encourage people to come to the island. We've taken extra precautions with housekeeping, and we're trying to leave a 3-day gap between checkouts and cleaning to keep people safe. One of the big concerns I'm going to have is trying to open up Bark again. I don't know if that's realistic. We've canceled sailing camp. We've got other events that we just don't know how it's going to play out until the government releases what they are requiring for phase 1 and phase 2.
What about the pool?
As far as last I heard, pool is not going to be open other than lap swimming, and that's going to be by appointment only. I know a lot of pools are starting to close for the summer across the nation.
When will that happen? Do you know when the pool will do lap swimming by appointment?
I don't. I have another meeting right after this one with our staff, so I can ask that question.
Thank you.
Erin, I think.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not good at leading these things. Josh, do you want to jump in and tell us a little bit about what you're up to?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Josh. I run the CrossFit gym in town, CrossFit Vashon. Gyms are currently in phase 3. So to my understanding, that looks to be about mid-June. And, so right now we're still kind of waiting on a lot of details to come out in terms of, guidance from the state. What do we need to do to open up some components of our business? Obviously, my business is mostly focused around, group fitness, which is, kind of tough to bring back in this climate. So, yeah, what we're thinking about is how to, what we're worried about is, close interactions, you know, how to regulate the flow of people in and out of the building, how to keep them, you know, or how to socially distance and work out and promote community and have a good time all, you know, all together. So, yeah, like I said, still kind of waiting on some details. I have, you know, ideas bouncing around in my head, you know, taped off sections of the floor, sanitizing stations, signs, change in programming, online options for people who aren't comfortable coming to group classes, you know, encouraging more personal training, one-on-one training, that kind of stuff, where the number of people in the building be limited to 2, you know, at a time. So, but yeah, mostly, you know, taking my time here because I know we're still in this holding pattern for the next month at least. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more information coming out, you know, as things are just constantly evolving and developing so fast that just trying to stay on top of it all and keep an open mind.
Right. Right. Elizabeth, how about you?
Hi, everybody. Well, I'm a part of Island Yoga Center. Catherine Payne and I own it, and we're closed. And I'll be honest, I don't know what phase we're in. Maybe it's similar to Josh's, because we have groups that come in, and we're I'm actually here just to gather information about what other people are doing in this situation. At this point, we don't actually envision whether bans are lifted or not before the fall. Our space is small, and we just don't see that it's going to be safe. And we also, you know, would consider what people actually feel safe doing. But you know, who knows as we go along if feelings will change. So at this point, whenever we do open, we are very interested in following guidelines that are sort of community arranged, and using the support of the community in whatever way, and supporting the community. And if there are resources available like signage or sanitizing things and gloves and so forth, we would want to participate in that.
Great. Great. Robert?
Yeah, hi, I'm Robert Littman from The Breathable Body, and most of my stuff's online right now, but I am also a continuum movement teacher. I used to have a studio on the north end of town. I don't have that anymore, so I rent space from other studios in town. I can't see that I'm going to go back to being able to teach movement classes in person anytime soon, with the new information that's coming out about how it's airborne, and how even certain letters, if you say an E more than an A, you have more chance of transmitting it through the vowel E. And so any kind of extra breath that you're going to be putting out and exercising is just going to be, unless it's really well ventilated. And I just don't know how I'm going to do that, to do any kind of exercise with people in a small space anytime soon. So I guess I'll stay online for a long time yet.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa?
Oh, hi, I'm Lisa Blair, and I'm the owner of My Little Dahlia Mobile Bar Company. And I basically is just gathering information, seeing what others are doing. I basically do bartending for private events and weddings. So I was scheduled this summer from April all the way through October every weekend with a wedding or an event of some sort. Mm-hmm. So, and I do primarily, I do a lot of events at Vashon Field and Pond, the lodges. So I'm just kind of gathering information. I don't know where I fall in, but I think I fall in where you know, the event venues would be opening, and how are they going to, you know, follow the, you know, social distancing and all that. So I'm just kind of, you know, listening in to find out information and go from there, sharing ideas.
Great, thank you. Stacy?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Stacy Hinden from Vashon Wilderness Program. And right now we've been operating online with the families that had already been enrolled with us during the school year. And as we look to summer camp planning, we are planning various different scenarios right now. Our earliest camp is scheduled to start July 6th. So that would be phase 4. And of course, we're just waiting for guidelines coming down from the state and also through American Camping Association. We're in dialogue with a national network of nature connection leaders that are doing programs exactly like ours, a very specific coyote mentoring nature immersion programming. The biggest concern that we have is, although more recently we're seeing information about how spending time outdoors and being outdoors is less risky and more safe, there currently still exist guidelines that require through all of Inslee's phases for 6-foot distancing. And we know as providers working with children that that's virtually impossible to do. Mm-hmm. And so we're just waiting to see if there's going to be any modification on that guideline. Certainly childcare providers have been wrestling with this since day one, as they've been working with kids in indoor settings, and I'm sure they're having problems keeping distance as well. So that's at the top of our mind in terms of safety. And then there are pragmatic issues, which is that we can adjust our camp sizes and all of that to maintain small groups. We can adjust the activities that we do to minimize or eliminate touching. But when you're working with children, there's always going to be a need for physical intervention sometimes, or the kids sometimes are not going to be able to keep their hands off each other. Working with King County, I haven't explored yet. Typically, we run our camps in Island Center Forest during the summer, and we take field trips to Point Robinson. So I'm curious about hand washing stations, which currently don't exist in King County parks. And if we have to move to an alternative of hand sanitizers, then I'd be interested to know if there's any resources or financial support for organizations like ours that have to buy that in major bulk to work with a ton of kids over the summer. So I don't know if Vashon Be Prepared has resources to support organizations or not, but that is a question that I'm holding. So I think that's check-in from me. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Stacy. And that's a really good point, and that's something we've been talking about, is getting gear, getting supplies and masks and all of that, and how the community can support that effort. So good point on the list. How about Sandy?
Hi, Erin. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I have Core-Centric Uptown. Michelle and I own that together. And we are doing Zoom sessions, and business is just kind of starting to grow again in a sense. And I think that's going to be our focus, is just growing Zoom, online training, because we're not going to get in the studio anytime soon, is my feeling on it. And actually, the Zoom stuff has been things that a lot of training has been trying to gear us towards, but clients haven't really wanted to take the leap. And now it's like, do it or don't. So it's, we're going to keep going with that, but I still want to, there are certain, like, do I keep the studio? Right? And if there's ways of coming back into it, then of course we keep the studio. So I just don't see those ways coming back anytime soon. Like Robert was saying about the breathing and everything. If we had a big garage door, like Josh has, then maybe that could work. but not in a small place. That's it. Phew, excuse me.
Deborah, if you can hear this, can you put yourself on mute?
Yeah, I just realized my family are exercising in the living room. I don't know how to put myself on mute. I'm like, I'll just go outside.
No, that's okay. So if you go down to the bottom left corner of your screen, you'll see a mute. You can go ahead and hit that. How about Larissa? You want to share what you're doing?
Sure. Hi, good morning. I'm Larissa Webb. I'm representing Open Space. And I'm here because we have both UMO and Here Yoga operating out of our building, or not right now, obviously, we're closed. Just here to see and listen to ideas about like if they are able to open, how we can help facilitate them. Have the same concerns as everybody else. UMO has a lot of children based classes and you know, indoor space, lots of contact. So that's it.
Great. Tara, you want to jump in?
Hey, I think Sam is also here, and is it just you, Sam? You're on mute. Unmute yourself, Sam.
I'm here from with EOC and Vashon. Be prepared.
Oh, okay. So I think I'm the only one from. I just found out about this like 15 minutes ago, so I can
Ben,
talk.
it looks like Ben's here. At least there's a Ben here.
Oh, I don't know who that
I
is.
think that might be our Ben from
Oh.
Your Ben.
So hey everyone, I'm Tara, and I'm a coach with Vashon Rowing down at Jensen Point, and Sam, just on wearing his other hat, is also involved as a rower and a former board member. So one thing I wanted to riff off of somebody said is how we're moving forward is that we have a national governing body, an NGB, and so our NGB is U.S. Rowing, and U.S. Rowing is sending out guidelines that's their best guess at a safe way to reapproach. So I wonder if other places or other industries have a national governing body that might be doing the same kind of work. So with rowing, what they're saying is that we can row kind of in phase one, we can row in singles, so one-person boats. And then Vashon's plan, I think, is to have small groups come at a time. So we're a team or an organization of, I think, about 100 participants, both kids and adults. So we'll be managing these sort of it's a kind of a big scheduling fun time. And of course, we share space with Aaron and Vashon Water Sports, so there'll be some working together with that. But they are recommending that we only row singles and or household boats. So if you live in the same household, you could row in a boat together, 2-person or 4-person boats together. So we're basically going on those guidelines. I personally am also looking at what British rowing is doing and what Australian rowing is doing, because those are massive organizations. And Australia has a few weeks ahead of us in terms of being open. So sort of looking at who's already done what we're doing is a few weeks ahead.
That's great, Tara. Thanks.
Yeah.
Armin, do you have something to add?
Hi, good morning. Yeah, a lot of you know me. I'm Armin Yusufian. I'm a mostly retired, longtime entrepreneur, I guess almost 50 years, mostly real estate, but other things too. And I'm mostly here just to hear what's going on. I occasionally finance new businesses, or mostly in real estate, but occasionally in other things. So I'm here to see if there's some way that I can help. Small business has a place in my heart, always will, because that's what I've been for 50 years. So I'm just here to see what I could do. I also own the Burton Inn. I acquired that by foreclosure, and that's a whole nother can of worms. And I don't know if I might pick up some information here that would be helpful in terms of what I'm doing and trying to get that thing back out of my life. And Erin knows all about that going back for years, because I've been through this cycle a couple of times. So that's it.
Gotcha. Thanks. Deborah, you want to talk about the Hive and what you're up to with hair salon stuff?
Yeah, so our state board and our group has been very organized, and we've had a million webinars on how to reopen. And we've been testing how quickly it takes to sanitize a space, how to air it out, how to I've bought more barbicide than I'll ever probably need, but we've got lists. Georgia opened up, and Colorado, Denver opened. So we've got lots of lists of things to do, and I'm prepared because we thought we were going to go back sooner. So I've got everything ready to roll to keep as much, safety as we can. We have enough masks and shields and stuff to get ready. And there's tons of protocol for us. We've already had protocol kind of set up, but we've got extra now. So we've gotten the salon prepared for that, and just to try to figure out, so I'm not like breathing in the fumes all day and getting sick from all the chemicals, because we have to sanitize in between each person. So, but we're prepared to do whatever it takes to make everybody feel safe. And, it's wonderful to see the salon so sparkly. But so air conditioning and filtration systems and keeping the windows open, and we're going to do our best to try to make everybody feel safe. Luckily, we're one person, one hair salon, so we're one-on-one. There's not two hairdressers in a space, so we don't have to worry about that. But there's new guidelines for us, like no waiting in the waiting space, no bringing your kids unless they're getting their hair done. I mean, there's specific guidelines. We have to ask people every time we make an appointment about their exposure. So there's some new protocol that we are prepared to, use. And, we're barbicide certified, so we know how to, clean the space as much as you can. Barbicide isn't too bad, but it's just a lot, for all day. But, we already schedule pretty spaciously. So, I think we're prepared. We're just, want to be safe and make sure the clients feel like they can come in the space and be okay. And I know people will be eager. We're phase 2, so we'll see how quickly that unfolds. We're projecting June, but it all depends on our state. California's, wherever California's at. I mean, everybody's just kind of waiting, and we're pretty ready to go.
Right. Thanks, Deborah. And then we have a mystery phone number joining us, and I'm not sure who that is. So if you want to tell us who you are and what your business is.
I'm actually just a Vashon resident, curious to hear the updates. My name is Leslie Stockton. I live on the North End. I'm not a business owner, but I'm eager to see things open up safely, and just very interested in what you guys are up to.
Excellent. Thanks for joining. So I think everybody is kind of introduced themselves, and if I've missed anybody, jump in. I'll just give you a brief description. I'm Erin Keeper from Vashon Adventures. We do the kayaking and electric bikes, and we do camping at Maury Island Marine Park. We opened last week. We're considered phase 1 for the kayaking. We did a slow roll in, reservations only. All payments and waivers are done online, so it's minimal contact. We've been Sam and Vashon Be Prepared and the Chamber to really, do it responsibly and wisely. And we've been in touch with the governor's office. Yesterday, there was actually the governor put out a much better detailed description of what outdoor recreation is. And I can send that link when we get off today. But, it felt good for our team to look at it and say, oh, we hit pretty much everything that they need for us. And our customers were responsive. But I think, you know, as we're opening as a community, you know, keeping our community safe, and having a shared message is really critical. So, you know, I think this is where us collectively as businesses and working together, we can all learn from each other and get back to business, whatever that means for all of us in different ways. So, you know, I'm glad Sam's with us today. He's been working diligently to, you know, come up with messaging and do a great job. So Sam, if you want to jump in and just kind of talk about the toolkit and what we're trying to pull together, that would be awesome.
Sure, we can see Cheryl's on here as well. So Vashon Be Prepared is working with the chamber, and our hope is to put together some workshops that will take merchants, small businesses through kind of a general reopening plan and education. And in doing that, you know, kind of see if we can't get some continuity. So your customers would feel that you're not doing anything that's outside of the normal. And then we're hoping, and part of this is to provide some materials in a kit, such as masks, hand sanitizers, and a placard that would outline kind of what you are doing to keep customers safe. You attend the workshop and you get this kit. So I know that there was a question about what are we doing as far as being able to look at sourcing out hand sanitizer, sourcing out masks, and that's what we're working on right now with the chamber, finding sources that can respond, getting the unit price down to where we can deal with it. One of the issues that retail merchants are facing, I'm not sure that outdoor recreation would face as much, but you know, one of the guidelines is having a plastic barrier between customers and the vendor itself. And so each one of the stores is unique. How that layout is, that's probably a fairly expensive little number, and we're trying to see how to source that out. Social distancing is another big issue. Certainly a lot easier in a bricks and mortar store than it is if you're outside in the parking lot. So we're looking at, you know, kind of putting down decals so that we can get the 6-foot separations. And the big things we're looking at is, at the end of the day, that Vashon is taking a huge step forward in best practices. And I think if we can get that communicated across the board, then your customers are feeling safer when they're in your store or somebody else's store. And so the idea with masks is that, you know, we don't want to have anybody turned away because they don't have one. So the store owner can say, here, I've got one, please use it. So as soon as we get, you know, our logistics group to figure out where our best sources are, we'll let everybody know. The initial toolkit, we're hoping everybody will take part of this workshop. And it's not going to be as industry specific, we don't think. It'll just be anybody, because you probably want to hear. I mean, it's certainly, I've seen the guidelines for hair salons, and they're pretty intense. So, you know, much different than what an outdoor recreational is looking at. But certainly the things that seem to be consistent are the mask, social distancing, sanitizing. Those are kind of the basics, and then going from there based on what your own industry is looking at. We had some conversations this morning online. It'd be interesting to know that McDonald's just published their guidelines. It's 60 pages long. Ford published theirs. It's 70 pages long. The CDC published theirs. It's 6 pages long. So you can see that private sector is taking the lead here. The state has done a very good job in publishing theirs, and they're pretty intense. The question is, do they work? And you know, there's a lot of difference between a 1 or 2 person shop and an operation like McDonald's. So it's how you balance that. But yeah, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. We want to make sure that we're doing what you need and helping you as best we can.
The feedback on components would be really helpful for us if there are other things that you're hearing. And I think one other thing, just to add to what Sam has said, is, this idea of sort of, if you will, a commitment or a pledge signage for either your website or wherever you're interfacing with visitors, to say, here's our commitment, our Vashon community commitment to safety, and sort of here's the steps we're taking as a business or as a venue to keep you safe. And we're going to make that so that people can fill it in with what they're doing, so that we're communicating as a consolidated voice for Vashon, so that when people are going around, it's not like I'm going to one place and they're saying one thing and then I'm going next door and it's saying something different. Instead, we want to have a unified front so that when people come here, or if they're just engaging with the community, that we have a sort of a central voice for our island and our community. So, I think there's a lot of power in us all coming together, and it's been great to work with Sam and the EOC as a chamber to be able to bring this together. And it's really just been nice to have all the businesses sort of feel good about getting on board. And it's really nice community work.
And hey, Cheryl, I just want to jump in. Props. I also work over at Voice of Vashon. And so props for all that signage you guys have been making that's also bilingual. We have a huge Hispanic population, so I think anything we can do to make our signage and things very accessible, no matter who's reading it, whether it be someone with visual impairment or whatever, that's going to be critical. Someone can just look at your storefront and say, they're on board, I can go in there, or whatever your requirements might be. So thank you so much for being so mindful about accessible messaging.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. Thank you so much for bringing it up.
Sam, I have a question, because this is my particular way of thinking about things. Is there going to be some conversation perhaps with some of the stores about talking about what kind of filtration they're offering so that people know that the air is circulating and some of those issues as well?
Aaron, that hasn't been something we've talked about, but I think, Robert, you bring up a good point for enclosed spaces.
Yeah.
And I know that the Hive, and I'm only partially listening because I'm sort of working at the same time, but I do know that, some people are bringing in air filtration. I'd be interested to hear what people who are working in enclosed spaces are thinking about.
Because it is a way to reassure the public that the air is circulating in a closed space and things like that, and also that that perhaps the sanitizers and things that they're using are not toxic for people who have sensitive airways. So there's also some concern about how much toxicity is in some of the cleansers as well. I would think for certain part of the population anyway.
So I had a question about the air filter idea, and yesterday, I think somebody mentioned HEPA filters. Do HEPA filters actually purify the air, like by removing the virus, or is it just a matter of keeping the air clean?
They can do some droplets. Charcoal filters, along with HEPAs, will do the odors, which will take some of the gases out of the air as well. And HEPAs go down pretty small. It's just a question of how much they can actually do. But it is about the filtration. And it is about keeping them on high so that you have a lot of change of the time, how many times a day or how many times an hour the air changes in the room. And so they all have to operate on high to fulfill their maximum, like 5 changes of air in an hour. So that's really helpful to change the air that often.
Hey, Robert, a quick question. Again, going back to the sort of national governing body concept, is the company who makes those filters saying these claims themselves?
No, they're not really claiming themselves. What they're mostly claiming is the turnover rate. That the filtration and the turnover rate is what really makes a difference. And the virus, if you consider it this way, I do, it's another pollutant in the air, and there are all these other pollutants, and those are what help make people more compromised as well. So continuing to keep that air clean reduces the compromise for people who, especially people who have asthma and COPD, like our real estate agent who moved off because there's too much pollution on the island. So it really helps people feel more comfortable, especially, like I say, people and children who come in with asthma or COPD. Mm.
So one other comment Sandy just made, and I think a lot of us saw it, was this weekend past weekend, there were a lot of visitors or people on islanders who just kind of disregarded the face covering and didn't have masks. So, thoughts of how we can do a better job. I know the signs all along the highway should have been a key off for a lot of people, but, ways that we can get people to pay attention in a kind and positive manner is something that's probably top of mind for a lot of us.
Well, I know in the marijuana store in town, you can't get in there unless you have a mask on. I mean, it says on the door, no, you kind of know. I mean, I don't know if they can stop that, but no entry without a mask. So they have a sign there that says you can't get in.
We've done the same thing with our customers, but they're all doing online reservations, so they know that that's what we're expecting. Other ways, just as people are wandering through town or,
Well, the workers in Thriftway themselves, I mean, a lot of them now more than before, but there are still workers who don't wear masks in Thriftway. It's kind of a mixed message.
I'm going back to the filter thing for just a minute, if that's okay. I bought this a couple of weeks ago, and then also Costco has a Dyson one that is supposed to be great. So I'm running this one in the house just to kind of see how I feel about it. We have lots of pets and stuff, so it gets pretty gross. But anyways, this is called Germ Guardian 4-in-1 cleaning system, and it had really good reviews. So, that's how big it is, right? And just
the more stages, the better. They go up to 5 stages, and the more stages, the better. And some with the ultraviolet light can kill germs.
That's what this one says.
And then you have to be careful to make sure that they don't, if you're using them in public, that they don't also, the ultraviolet light also kicks off ozone. And so ozone's a pollutant for people who have sensitive airways. So it's kind of, you have to really be careful about all of that.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, Erin, so on your topic of that, so let's say that I'm a Seattleite and I'm looking for a place to do a day trip, right? I might be a cyclist, or I might be just a family looking, they've got cabin fever, and why don't we go to this small town? The places that they're looking for resources are things like Washington Trails Association website, King County Parks websites. If those places, those sort of gatekeeper sites have these mask restrictions on them, I think that's one point of contact. I heard that there was a guy at the Tahlequah Ferry with a sign on Saturday that said, "Go home," which is the other end of the spectrum of what we don't want to do. Right. So I think there's a lot of big emotions about this. I know at Burton Mercantile, where I live here in Burton, all the day trippers, no one had masks on, over the weekend. But that was also before the order sort of came down. So I think now businesses are feeling more empowered to have a please wear a mask on the door, like Robert was saying. I'm pretty sure that Thriftway is requiring their people to wear them now, at least. I don't know.
There were some Thriftway people without masks on. But like one of them, he was getting really claustrophobic with the mask and overheated. It was a really hot day and for us. So I can only imagine what it's like for people in Arizona and, Southern California and stuff where it's 100 degrees out. But he had started by wearing it, but so those kind of considerations, I don't know what we do for them, but it's kind of like we can't judge too quickly, but at the same time, let's get the rules and process kind of protocols really established.
Yeah, I guess the other issue is CO2 buildup, which can really make you feel really sick and nauseous and give you headaches and make you want to throw up. And then you have almost all masks increase heart rate, and so you have to be careful about increasing your heart rate if you already have high heart rate. and strain on your heart.
Yeah, such a very real thing that people don't recognize.
Yeah, so you may find that people, I mean, that's a good point about the heat. You may find people having a little more difficulty in calling on emergency services here in town if they pass out or get really sick from wearing a mask. Might be a strain on the services too.
Hey, Erin, this is Leslie Stockton again. I'm not a business owner, but I do live here. And I want to address that I think there's two very different things we're talking about here. Absolutely respecting the business owners on the call who want to make sure that they and their customers are as safe as possible wearing masks and doing everything they can there. That's absolutely understood. But the parks are a different conversation. Outdoor recreation is a space where we can spread out. On Mother's Day, I was at the beach, and I was yards and yards and yards and yards. My family and I were yards away from anybody else. No one was wearing masks, but nobody was anywhere near one another. I found it to be very respectful. Islanders and non-islanders, I found people to respect each other's space, wait for one person to walk by before another person, went to their car in the parking lot. And so just sharing those guidelines at the parks of saying, make sure you keep your distance, I think is all you can expect someone to do. And then, of course, the business owners making sure that masks and things are worn there is obviously going to make sense because that's just a tighter quarter. I just want to make sure that we're separating the two conversations.
That's very true. What we're doing, because we're working with people, we're intentionally doing everything outside. So that we're in open air. We have masks when we're in close contact, and then our recommendation based on what we're hearing in the outdoor industry is once they're off and doing their own thing, they shouldn't be wearing a mask unless they feel compelled to do so, so that they're not overheating and they're not having issues. So, I think we all have different workspaces and things that we need to consider and what's the safest and, weigh the pros and the cons of everything and good hand cleaning, which brings up a point Cheryl makes, what about the restrooms? We all have bathrooms at our businesses or porta potties at the parks, and how are we getting the word out to just make sure people are staying as clean as possible while they're out in the wild and in closer proximity to people. Eric?
Hi, Erin. Yeah, I'm struggling with the restroom issue a lot because almost all of our parks are without restrooms. We have honey buckets set up, and I'd be the last one in the world to want to go in one of those right now. I know if I'm able to get our skate camp running at Bark this summer, I'm planning on bringing in a second portable unit that's going to be locked, and it's going to be just for those kids at camp. They'll be disinfected before and after each camp session. I don't know. The restrooms is a really good question.
And that's Jensen Point, which is used quite often. And that's with the rowing club and with our operation as well. Would there be a way to get the normal bathrooms operational with a very set policy of cleaning, or, that would be something of interest, I think, for some of us too.
Yeah, I think, Erin, we probably got to get with parks because at least the permanent bathrooms have hand washing facilities, and that's a big start, whereas the porta potties don't.
Our units do actually have sanitizer. The problem is people are stealing them along with the TP in them.
Yeah. So maybe we'll talk to.
We can go aloud.
Oh my God.
You get 2 sheets. Go. All right. Well, I think there's a lot to chew on. It's about 9:40, and I wanted to make sure everybody feels like they're getting what they need from this conversation, and also just circle back to the bigger workshops and toolkit ideas that we're working on. What things would be most helpful, and if you want to ponder it and send us an email, we can start consolidating that information so that we know, masks are a priority, hand sanitizer, posters and different pieces, whatever collateral or materials would be helpful. We're trying to really make sure that, you know, we're addressing the needs of all the different types of businesses on the island, and, you know, putting the word out for people who haven't had the opportunity to really learn all the steps of, you know, if their industry isn't quite as organized as like the hairdressers and some of the others, you know, we can all learn from that. So this is
Erin,
yeah.
Erin, can we just ask everybody, any ideas or suggestions you guys have, please direct them to executive director at vashon-chamber.com, so we can consolidate it in one place. We have a couple people who are checking that email, and that way it'll allow us to consolidate it versus sending it to like Erin or Sam or me, you know, so that it kind of gets dispersed into our individual emails. Executive director at vashon-chamber.com is where we're kind of trying to centralize everything for this. Sorry, Erin, I just wanted to pop in.
That's good.
In the chat too.
So anyone else have anything that burning on your mind?
I had a question maybe for Sam. I don't know if you can answer this. If you have seen anything in any of the guidelines that you have come across that's recommending health screenings for, say, like group classes or before people can participate, like checking temperatures and taking health history?
What we've seen is there certainly is the guidelines that have come across talk about employees, the workforce, and it is, you know, how are you monitoring them? Are you checking their temperatures? Are you sending sick employees home or telling them to stay home? They haven't gone beyond, you know, kind of basic common sense stuff, but they do ask that, and you've seen it King County posters that that they do say that, are you monitoring your workforce on a daily basis or regular basis? They're not giving you guidelines as to what to do, but the normal signs are temperatures, coughing, runny noses, those types of things.
Okay.
Sam, do you know if people are actually able to get no-touch thermometers?
What I've heard is they're very expensive and they're hard to come by.
I ordered one off of Amazon. It should be here later this week.
Yeah, actually a new source we just saw this morning too. It's the Madrona group that Erin, you sent around. They actually have no touch thermometers there, and I think they're $67 a piece.
Right.
For red thermometers, and I think they do have them in stock. They also have gloves and surgical masks, which are not quite as good as like sort of the HEPA masks, but I can grab that link out of the email from Erin this morning and drop it into the chat.
That'd be great. Has anybody actually taken temperatures yet of staff or group sessions?
I started to take temperatures when before we closed, and it was awkward because people weren't ready for that sort of thing.
Right.
but it was like it was the first week of March, I think, but we closed directly after that. So.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious how that had worked, if anybody resisted.
It was it's a thermometer that was for the temple, and we were just trying it, you know. Nobody. The temperature that you take at the temple is different than the temperature that you know, there's a leeway, and so many people actually have different regular basal temperatures, right? So when they talk about the temperatures, they say that over 100 and something, right, Sam?
104.
Mm-hmm.
104 is the demarc. So below that, you're supposed to be okay. Above that, you need further help.
And it's just important for everybody to know that everybody thinks that 98.6 is sort of the normal temperature. It's not anymore. It's actually lower than that. It's actually more like between 96.7 and 97.2. Over time, people's temperatures have come down. So just want everybody to kind of take that into consideration in case you see somebody who is lower. don't think your machine is, your thermometer is broken. It's just that that's the norm, the new norm. And a lot of people just have in their head from old days 98.6, and that's not true. So just FYI.
Excellent. Is there anything else on anyone's mind?
I just want to tell Elizabeth with Island Yogas, if you haven't considered doing Zoom, I know the 2 women living with me in this house are doing Zoom yoga sessions, and I think it's saving them right now. So
Yeah, actually, we are doing Zoom. I
Are
kind of
you?
like that out. And we have
Okay.
some on-demand videos also that are available on our website. So we have some of those sorts of things available. And we're going to be adding more Zoom classes as we get our teachers kind of up and running. So,
Okay, great.
yeah, thank you for that, though.
Oh, one thing, Erin, I wanted to point out too was the concept of the private lesson, you know, because we was sort of briefly mentioned earlier, but I know that, you know, at the rowing club where we usually host a learn to row class, which I teach every summer, which is like 13 to 20 students in 1 8-person boat or 2 8-person boats. It's more likely that we'll follow a small group or private lesson model this summer to keep the sport going, obviously, but some other businesses that might be good for.
Right, and I'll send the link, actually I'll try to find it right now and send it through chat for the governor's announcements yesterday, which talks about outdoor small groups, and it distinguishes between phase 1, phase 2, and, you know, letting the groups get bigger and overnight capacity for guided things. You know, so the good news is they're thinking about that stuff now, which a couple weeks ago wasn't even, you know, anywhere that we could find publicly. So I'll share that in a minute. You know, there's a lot to ponder and a lot to, you know, try to work through. Elizabeth, one thing, if you haven't done it, if on the chamber, there is a virtual section. So if you wanted to add that to your chamber.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so that way people can see what's available virtually.
Yeah, good, thank you for that.
Yeah, so, you know, the more that there's great resources there, we've added a lot of things under COVID and the essential businesses and the virtual businesses. And, you know, so if you come up with new ways to do things and want to get it out there, the chamber can certainly help push the message too. Great, thank you. And I can't multitask, so I'm going to try to find that link. So carry on the conversation.
I mean, the link for the virtual essential?
No, I was going to find the from the governor's office.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was going to see if I could help you out there. And so many links.
You can chat amongst yourselves.
Yeah, so we are going to be working on these kits over the next couple of weeks. I know a lot of people already have things in place, but we're going to be trying to get the communication out about what we're doing with the workshop and the kits early in the week, probably like, you know, early in the week, just to kind of announce what we're kind of thinking and doing to kind of consolidate and get everybody together. I would love to know sort of what are the best vehicles to get information to people. We've been using our mailing list for the chamber, but I'm not sure everybody reads all of the things that come out. And we're also doing Facebook as well to try to make sure people are seeing things as we post on Facebook for the chamber. But I want to make sure we're getting this out as much as possible to people. Are there other kind of communication outlets that are important? And of course, we're working with EOC and we have stuff in the sit rep report that comes out. But I'm wondering if there are other sites we should be posting on or places where we should be going to make sure everybody gets the information. Is there anything that people typically are going to? No. Okay, so Facebook is fine.
I've been kind of wondering the same thing about stuff at Instagram seems to be like the regular for people that I know
Mm-hmm.
quick, and it doesn't get them stuck there so much.
Yeah. Been trying to increase our presence on Instagram. It's just a different communication vehicle. But I didn't know whether other people were using things. I mean, do people read the Beachcomber?
Yeah,
You do? Okay.
but I'm old.
I know that seems like an awful question to ask, but I'm just being a realist.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel for those guys, a staff of 2 trying to do all that.
One. Yeah, right. How about Voice of Vashon? Is that another place where people are listening and hearing things, or no? Okay. We're kind of.
Sarah has a program on.
I'm like, ouch. I have a show every Wednesday. Ouch.
I'm just asking. I know, Sarah, I'm not meaning to be mean. I'm just asking.
No,
to make
I'm just like watching
all our
everybody.
faces.
I'm watching all their faces like, dang. Okay, listen to my show on Wednesday mornings. Very fun.
I do.
We could
like
use some
that
fun
voice
right
of it.
now. We definitely could use some fun. All right, so we'll basically keep doing with what we're on. Are people also looking at Vashonites on Facebook, or what's the other one, Erin, that everybody goes to? Vashon All? No? Okay.
Yeah, I think people are looking at those.
Okay.
I read the
They just get
EOC
monitored.
briefings every day.
Yeah.
I think everybody's looking at those, and maybe one little link in the resources that says, hey, you know, latest chamber news. I'd
Okay.
click that, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Good.
that's a good idea, Tara.
Yeah, I love those EOC briefings.
Yeah, they're great. They cover everything.
And now they can cover one thing more.
Well, they have been listing the stuff that we're doing in there, and it is one blurb in there. So, but you know, I just want to make sure that we're getting out news to everybody, because there's so many different moving pieces that I want to make sure that we're communicating effectively for people. Okay.
I think
Erin?
word of mouth is our best bet.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's one of the reasons why the networking coffees on Fridays have been good. It's been really good, just even like these roundtables, just all the different ones we're doing, because we're getting a lot of cross-pollination and a lot of conversations going among people all over the island who are in business. So it has been really helpful to do these. We have a couple more planned for next week that we're trying to get the dates on the calendar for. And so one is for people who do in-home services. People like, you know, interior designers who have to go into people's homes, realtors who have to go into people's homes, you know, how are they dealing with things? We've got that one coming up. We're going to expand the merchants call that we had. We had one on Tuesday with a small group of more gallery focused merchants, and we're going to expand that to a broader group of merchants. And then we also are going to do, Erin, help me here. I'm totally blanking on the last one. Too many details, but there's one more that we're going to be doing in addition. Performing arts,
Yeah.
and, performing arts and visual arts, so that we can hear a little bit about what's going on there. I do know that the VCA is putting together pretty extensive guidelines on sort of how they are going to operate, and I've also been talking to the open space, so I know they're working on things as well. So it would just be good to have like one conversation to hear what's on people's minds. So Erin, you think we covered everything?
I think, you know, we're approaching the hour. I think we got some good information, and, you know, please let us know if there's other things that come up that you really want to put out to the group. You know, it's a moving target, and we're all trying to do our best here and keep our island safe and keep our businesses alive. So, you know, anything we can do to help as a chamber, as the EOC, as Vashon Be Prepared, and having good community messages that, you know, resonate and are in good spirit. Yes, Armin, are you raising your hand?
I am. These links that Emily and you, Erin, have put up, do those go away once the meeting ends? I'm
Yes.
trying to bring up words so I can copy and paste them to keep them to look at later.
You know what, Armin, I can send you these after.
Oh.
I'll just send, I think I have everybody's email. If you registered for this, I've got it. But Armin, if you want to just throw your email up there, that would be terrific in the chat, and I'll grab it.
And Eric, did you have another comment?
Yeah, I just want to know if we're going to do this weekly or if there's any regularity to this.
What do you guys think? Do you want to have regularity to it? Because we can do this on a regular basis with this group or with a broader group, just to kind of keep people in touch with what's happening. We're up for doing it if people are interested in coming.
I'm interested.
Okay, that's great. Happy to schedule these so that we can get together and keep them going, because I do think it's important that we stay connected and we hear about, share information. I mean, just the links alone today were valuable.
Great. Sam, do you have anything in closing?
No, I really appreciate Erin, you leading this group, and look for on the Chamber's COVID-19 website as we start these workshops, which is really kind of taking what this roundtable is and extending that a little bit more. So that should be coming up in a little bit. We're just kind of working out the template for that to make sure we can get it all going. And yes, if you have any ideas or suggestions, please follow Cheryl's directive there and email to executivedirector@vashonchamber.com. We're here to help, and so the more information you can provide, the better we can respond. I wish we had the crystal ball, but we don't. You have the crystal ball because you're interacting constantly with people. And for those that haven't dealt with credit cards online or reservation policy, Erin's, when they opened last week, had an unbelievable protocol that, if you haven't seen, covered about every base I could think of. And for those that haven't gone that route yet, please take advantage of it. And by just talking about it, that's a whole nother, we'll be seeing to get out of this thing eventually that how we do business has changed dramatically. So, we talked about the wearing a mask. I think that's here for a long time. And so we're trying to demonstrate the change in paradigm, and sometimes just being a good role model is all. Don't expect 100% compliance, and don't be confrontational when there's not there. It will come. It just takes a while. Thanks, Erin. Thanks, Cheryl. Thank you, everybody, for helping.
Yeah, thanks for joining, everybody. We appreciate it.
I got to scoot to another meeting. Bye, guys.
See you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Erin?
Yeah.
One of my clients have no interest in coming back to the studio for a long while. Just to let you know.
Uh-huh.
They're all like, oh yeah, no, they're wanting to know that I'm going to stay doing it this way for a while.
Uh-huh.
So just to give you a feel for what community people are thinking. Yeah.
That's interesting. I do think that some of the restaurants are going to probably hold off on reopening too and stay with delivery. There's been a lot of conversation about that. So we'll have to navigate this with all the changes. So it's good to have everybody together.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I got to go.
Okay.
Bye.
Good to see everyone.
Bye, guys. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.